Hey. Welcome back to the miniature mic monologue. Do you guys like my shirt? It's adorable, isn't it? I got it from the loft. I also have it in this light blue color. Freaking love it. Anyways, welcome back to the podcast, you guys. I think I need to start like a segment for these group of podcasts that I'm making, because like I just did one about it's not okay and that's okay. Like it's kind of like advice. It's kind of not. I don't freaking know. This one is obviously about growing up with your parents, and I think that this obviously is a very relevant topic for me because I'm growing up and becoming a young adult, and it is probably way weirder for my parents and all of the parents in this generation because I am in my young adult phase, very much transitioned out of being a teenager and transitioning closer and closer to being an adult, and your relationship with your parents is going to shift a lot. And I think that everybody's relationship with their parent is different, and I can only speak from my perspective. And my perspective is that I have a fantastic relationship with my mom, and I always have. I can't say the same for my father, so I can't really give any advice on that, but I can touch on some things that I think relate to both sides of the spectrum, which is kind of nice from an advice standpoint, not necessarily from a life standpoint. But God still sits on the throne, so we're good for that, and everybody should have boundaries. It's not your boundaries, even with your parents. So we're going to get into all of that, and I'm really excited to break it down and discuss this. Maybe I do a segment with my mom next time. That might be a good idea because we do these segments called Lady Talks on my podcast. Oh, this is my podcast on my YouTube channel where we talk about all those things. So maybe I can bring her on next time or something like that. But yeah. Let's get into it. So if you know me or you know anything about me in real life, you know that my mom and I are super close. Most of my friends in high school liked my mom more than they liked me, and I was okay with that because she didn't love you more than she loved me. Anyways, no shade, no tea. You ain't got it like that. I'm the one, baby. And I think that that's literally that right there. That emote is literally how my mom has treated me my entire life. I sent her this TikTok the other day that was about this mom, and she put the text on the screen, or it was on an Instagram reel, whatever. And she was like, my daughter texting me in the middle of the day. She's a high school student. Oh, I forgot my water bottle or something like that. Me responding, too bad. And then it's her putting her sunglasses on and grabbing the water bottle. And the rest of the text says, me on my way to drop off that same water bottle with a little sweet treat. I sent that to my mom, and she puts like the little monkey eye cover emoji on it, and she goes, guilty. And I responded, that's literally you except you're black, because she was white. That's just a sidebar. Let's get into the material because I freaking have material for this episode. So the first thing or point of, I don't know, this is the first thing I want you guys to note if you're really kind of looking for some guide in the relationship. All of this is subjective. If you are not in a good spot or good relationship with your mom or your dad, one of them or both of them, if that is the case, whether it's both of them or just one of them, I am very sorry. That's very difficult. I know on both fronts, but I want you to take this with a grain of salt and be able to adapt it to your situation. But the first thing after that I want you to know is that it's going to be awkward, okay? And it's probably way more awkward for your parents than it is for you because your relationship is shifting from being a provider to just being a person. You're no longer looking at them as someone from whom you draw life. You don't need them to cook your food. You don't need them to wash your clothes. You don't need them to drive you everywhere. And all that stuff kind of starts happening as you get older. You turn 16, you get a car, you get a license. You want to go hang out with your friends. They teach you how to do laundry. You learn how to do the dishes. You cook breakfast sometimes. Like all of those little intros to that big transition are happening as you are growing up. But once it all really happens, you don't need them for money anymore. You have a job, like you're in a very serious relationship, all of these different things. It's a lot for your parents. Like it's very exciting for anyone who's like me. And like, I always wanted to be an adult. Like I've always wanted to be an adult. Ever since I'm little, all I've wanted to be was big. And my mom will testify to that. But it's exciting for us, but it's probably really scary for them because not even scary, but just like, yeah, definitely probably scary, but just hard and sad because you were their everything. They made the decision to have you and raise you, and they have to give up their lives, oftentimes put their lives on hold to give you one. So you now being like, I'm good. Woo, I'm out of here. They're like, oh, right. Like, even though that's what they signed up for because they knew you were going to go and be out and the goal is for them to raise you to go be independent, they're like, hey, so maybe don't be so independent. Like, and I think that what that shows up as or how that shows up a lot of times as relationships is your parents still trying to boss you around or, I don't know, just like anywhere that they can get a small little foothold of what it used to be like for them to have that same amount of control in your life. And it has nothing to do about the control most times. Sometimes it does. 9 times out of 10, it has more to do with them trying to emulate that relationship, that time where you needed them all the time because it's nice to be needed. So I think you really have to have a lot of grace. You have to be really gentle. You have to be really kind. You have to be really humble, but still uphold your boundaries. And I think the foundation for being able to do that and to balance it is the relationship that you had built before that. It's obviously going to be a lot more complicated if you and that parent or your parents don't have a good relationship. In that case, I think you have to be situationally aware, use discernment. If you believe what I believe, you need to talk to the Lord about the situation. Like I don't have that situation with my mom, but like I said, I don't have a great relationship with my dad. So I have had to use discernment on both fronts and it's benefited me with both parents about making decisions. So I think you just have to remember that this is a bigger transition for them than it is for you. So if they are acting funny, don't be surprised because now all of a sudden, these people that you have depended on, you're like, I'm chill. I got a boyfriend. I'm doing this. Like it's gonna hurt. I have to imagine that it hurts. And you have to be willing to deal with the awkwardness of it and know where that parent is coming from, because as you're getting older and like your late teenage years, you start to see your parent not as this superhuman, but as this person, and realize that they have flaws and that they have, and sometimes even earlier than your late teenage years, but you start to realize that they are a person and that they have flaws and that they have quirks and that they have insecurities and things that they struggle with. And so if you know those things about them, it makes it 10 times easier for you to adjust to any kind of, I don't think latent is the word, but it's like a behavior that's happening because of something that's not actually the cause of it. You can better interpret those and better address them with them. Like my mom, I'm trying to think of another example. I guess, okay, a good example, and my mom will laugh at this, is my mom has always been bossy. Like she's always bossed me around, right? So sometimes I will have an adult thing that I'm like, I don't know how the bleep to do this. So I'll call her or we'll be together. And this happened like so many times when I was home like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And I would be like, okay, I don't know how to do it. So then she would explain it to me, right? And I'm like, okay. She's like, oh, you need to call this person and ask for the technical department, right? And I'm like, okay. And I already know what the issue is because I told her what the issue is. I just told her I don't know how to fix it, right? So I know what to say to that technical person. So then I'll say, okay, got it. Thank you. And then my mom will proceed to be like, okay, so when you call them, just tell them, hi, my name is Jiana Lawson. And for a while, I used to like not even think of that. Like she would do that in conversation, tell me what to say and how to say it and who to talk to. And I wouldn't even think about it because I was so used to it. But as I got older more recently, I've been like, Mom, I know how to have a conversation with people. And she'll be like, and then she'll just walk away. Like a funny interaction like that, because she's used to me being like, okay, well, what do I say? Can you just call them? I don't know how to do it. Like, can you just, I can't do it. You do it. Like, she's so used to that, but she also knows that I've always been really independent. And now that I've had some more experience and I know generally how to like solve problems or talk to someone on the phone, she still does it because part of me just thinks that's her personality. But the other part is that she's my parent, and I'll be like, Mom, I know how to get to the customer service department. And then she's like if we're close together, she'll like tap my leg like this, or she'll like pop my foot, which drives me crazy. I hate when she does that, but it's really in all good fun. But I just think that's an example of it where it's like, that's awkward and that's a good way, you know, how to manage it. And then there's going to be times where it's awkward and there's not any set way to manage it. Like it's just going to be more awkward because it's a more contentious situation, or it's about a more contentious subject, you know, life decisions where you differ on, you know, views about money, views about jobs. Like sometimes it's going to have to be a little more uncomfortable, and that's fine. You just knowing where you stand with them outside of that is going to keep you and them from jumbling up any of the problems that you're dealing with the meat and bones of your relationship, which has nothing to do with it. I don't know why I said meat and bones, with the heart of your relationship, because those two things are not related. And I think that's something that my mom has made abundantly clear throughout my entire life, is that no matter what I do, how I act, what I say, she's my mom and she's going to love me regardless. And she's always going to be here for me. Whether or not we have a great relationship like we do now, that was up to me, like the way that I acted, the way that I decided to do all those things. She made it very clear very early on that she wanted to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, not just when I needed her and when I was a child. So that little funny story was kind of a good segue into the topic of boundaries, which I think is going to look different in every relationship, but you have to have boundaries with your parents. Like I feel like especially if you don't have boundaries with your parents, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to establish them elsewhere, because that's like your first relationship in life. Or like if it's not your parents, your primary caregiver or your grandparents, like whoever, if you can't establish boundaries there, it's going to be very hard for you to establish them elsewhere, because like that's like the first line of defense. I think something that was an accelerator of establishing those boundaries for me and letting me know that as I'm growing into this adult, I've always been a person who has the ability and will always maintain the ability to do something and not tell anyone. You know, like I have privacy, I have free will. Like the biggest accelerator of that fact in my mind was me going away to college, because I wasn't around my mom all the time. She couldn't watch me make all the decisions that I was making. She couldn't tell me, no, don't do that. No, don't eat that. No, don't go there, because we weren't together. And having that realization that you are your own person is a big deal. And then you have to decide how you want to steward your personhood as it relates to someone who, for the last 18 years, has basically stewarded it for you. So I think that, one, your parents have to have respect for your personhood. And if they don't, that is a problem. Like that's a big, big problem. And without getting into too much detail, that's basically the reason my father and I don't have a relationship. So the boundary I set there is, well, we're not having any kind of conversation or relationship because I'm a person. And just because you had something to do with my creation doesn't mean that you get to not treat me like a person. Like that's a hard boundary, right? And it's different when you have a positive relationship with someone and you have to set a boundary because you take their feelings into account. You care about their feelings. You care about how they hear it. Like, you know that they might not respond well to certain words in certain situations. Like, you have to be very, very careful. So it's funny now because my mom has always encouraged me to just be frank, like be truthful, tell her how I'm feeling, and then just move on. So she will do something, and without even thinking about it, if I don't like it or it bothers me, like, I'll just be like, I don't like when you do that because it makes me feel like this or this or this. And then she might be like, oh, okay, why? And then I'll tell her, well, because I think that you think blah, blah, blah. At least that's what I'm getting from the actions. And then she's like, she says this funny thing where she'll be like, well, tell me how you really feel. And I'm like, what? You're the one who told me to be frank with you. And then I be frank with you. And she's kind of like, but it's funny. And like, she doesn't want me to change that, but I just think it's interesting how she communicated that. And that's kind of been a big boundary and parameter in our relationship. Like, if you have something to say, just say it. But we've always had to kind of go back and forth about saying it with intention and not just saying it to say it, because we both maintain the ability to just say something high and dry that is very emotional with very little emotion. And it's like, whoa, okay, didn't know we were Wally and Eve. Like, we ain't got to be that dry. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just am very frank and honest in my relationships about how I feel. And so I think that moving away to college not only helped me figure out how to place my priorities of like what I want to be bringing up to my mom, the things that I don't want to be bringing up to my mom. It brought that to my attention, first of all. Like, I don't have to tell her everything. Like, I don't have to give her every rundown of every decision I've made in my entire day and give her the ability to judge it or say whether she likes it or not, because I'm here by myself and I can decide whether or not I like that decision. Like, creating that separation physically helps with creating that natural separation as you grow up and you like get your own job or you move out or you do whatever, or you keep going to school. And I think that is great if you can do that. Like, if you are going to college, if that's something if you want to do. If not, it's going to take a lot more meticulous and likely uncomfortable conversation, where being frank is a very good and present help. Like, hey, I need you to not do this anymore. You know what I'm saying? And the conversation of, I'm a person now of legal age and my feelings are not to be monitored by you anymore. They're to be heard and made a decision about by you based on how you would like to have a relationship with me moving forward. And even with my mom, that's not always an easy thing for her or for me, because if she says something like that to me and I don't like it, I have to process it and make a decision about whether or not I'm going to let that affect our relationship. If I say something like that to her and she doesn't like it, she has to process it and decide whether or not what she's going to do about it is going to affect our relationship in a way that she likes or doesn't like. And so that is the hardest part about trying to draw this balance, because that your parents will always be your parents and you should respect them for that because they set you up for this life. But you should not have to spend your life paying them back or being treated as less than because they had you or you're younger than them or they raised you. Like, you signed up for that. And I am now of age to decide whether or not I want to interact with you. And so it's a balancing act. And just like I discussed earlier, it didn't go well at all with my father. It goes well a lot of times with my mom. Sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes we have to come back and revisit. And so there's never a, woo, this is going to go perfect and this is going to go great all the time, until there is like very super clear separation. I have a husband. I have a wife. we have kids, I have a job in a different state. Boom. Like, it doesn't get any more clear than that. But if you are kind of like me, where you're in this stage where you're not a kid anymore, but you're not a full grown living on your own adult, you have to be willing to endure the awkward, have grace and be kind, understanding that this transition really isn't about you, it's about them. That right there, that is the kicker. This transition is really not about you, it's about your parents. And so you need to treat it with as much dignity and respect and kindness and gentleness and love as you would expect to receive from your future children, if you want to have future children. I'm just trying to put it in perspective in a way that might help you understand, because we don't know what it's like to be them. And if you want to keep a relationship with them, you should keep that at the forefront of your mind, remembering that they are people just like you are discovering that you are a person. And they are deserving of all the respect and space and frank communication that you can give them. And that's all you can give them at the end of the day. So yeah, it's a balancing act, and it's never going to be beautiful. It's never going to be pretty. It's never going to be perfect, because it's a relationship. But if you love each other, which all parents love their children, like I know that there are extreme situations, and we're not talking about those, but all parents love their children, and the Bible says that they are an inheritance of the Lord. You got to keep that at the forefront of any awkward interaction or awkward moment that you're encountering, trying to figure out how your relationship is that you guys love each other, and whether this transition lasts for 2 months or it lasts for 2 years, you are willing to endure with that love in mind and the respect for one another, which I think is big. And it might take your parents a little bit longer to realize that, because you've always been their little needy child. But yeah, I think that that's the best advice I can give. And just tell your mom, your dad, whoever your guardian was, that you love them, and you are also worthy of that same love and respect, and value in personhood that they have basically always received their entire life, because they've been an adult and you're just now becoming one. So yeah, keep that at the forefront of your mind. I hope this helped, and I probably will get my mom on here next time, and you can kind of just see our dynamic play out live. We're very much yin and yang, and I'm the one that's calmer, 100%. And it's not like a hoo-hee-ha competition thing. I'm trying to get the last word. I'm just the one that's calmer. So I want to get her on here maybe one time so you guys can see that we can have this conversation, because it's also important to hear the parent side of things. But as a kid who has a great mother, I just wanted to get on here and talk about this, because I think my mom and I have done a really good job. So mommy, if you're watching, I love you, and stop hitting my foot. It pisses me off. Okay? All right. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye. I don't know how to end these. How do I end these? Peace and love.